Welcome to Integrative Medicine with Dr. Leland Stillman, the podcast where we explore the best of East and West, old and new, conventional and unconventional, in search of answers to medicine's toughest cases and most difficult problems. This podcast is for informational purposes only. Diagnostics and therapeutics discussed on this podcast may or may not be right for you. So talk to a qualified practitioner before taking action based on what you learn here. If you'd like to become a patient at my practice, go to stillmanmd.com to schedule a complimentary discovery call. Thank you for listening and welcome to today's episode. Hello, everyone. Dr. Stillman here with Richard Bliss Brooke and Amy Arp. Hello, Richard. Hello, Amy. Thank you for joining me today.
Hello.
Honored to be here.
I am delighted to have Richard here. Richard's been my mentor for the last several months in our, he is an advisor, not involved directly, for the record, in helping us build a network marketing business. And that is how I came to read his book, Mach II with Your Hair on Fire. Subtitle, How to Master Self-Motivation and Stay on Fire for Life. And I was very, very surprised to find that a book that was primarily, I don't know if I could say it's primarily written for people who are interested in or who are network marketers, was really forcing me to think in a different way about how I coached people in the health and wellness space. But that's exactly what happened. Now it's probably one of the most worn out books in my library. I've read it at least 3 times. And the reason for that is that I don't think you could, or I haven't been able to find a more concise, hard-hitting book that describes the process of personal transformation for success, or a more concise, more powerful one than this, which for me is very exciting because one of the great challenges I face is that people are exceedingly busy. They find it difficult to focus. And one of my great problems in the health and wellness industry is that many, many people are problem focused, not results focused. And they don't give people a clear, concise explanation, not of the problem. In fact, their problem descriptions are usually 95% of their book. And the solution is 5%. And I think that's a big part of why the world is as sick as it is and is focused on its health as it is. So without further ado, thank you, Richard. And I'd like to start by really asking you, what's the story behind this book? Where does this really begin for you?
Well, you mentioned network marketing. From a business standpoint, that's where I cut my teeth on financial success, business, growing wealth. And the interesting thing about people that choose network marketing as a journey for building an income and wealth is you're choosing to sell something, the idea of network marketing, that everybody that you're going to talk to has already decided they don't want anything to do with. So it's kind of like maybe you decided to sell Mercedes, but everybody you know has already decided they're never, ever, ever going to buy a Mercedes. It's not the easiest journey. And where the essence of it is, you have to deal with rejection. And so you have to maintain your state of motivation. You have to maintain your fire and your drive and your enthusiasm when most people are not only telling you no, but they're probably raining on your parade. It's not an easy journey. And I, after a couple of years of struggling in the profession, became very successful. And one of my secrets was not dealing so much with how to sell the product and anything to do with the opportunity, but dealing with people's managing their state, their motivational state, like keep them in a place where they had a story that gave them a green light to do what needed to be done. And so, that's kind of where the book came from is I, mastered this art being a network marketer. There's one particular distinction though that probably was the defining moment for the body of work. I always thought, I thought I was taught that motivation, that burning energy to get something done came from desire. That if you wanted something bad enough, you would be willing to do what it took to get it. And I operated that way, even before I got involved in network marketing. And for the first few years of network marketing, I thought everything had to do with desire. And then I invested a lot of money and sat at the foot of a brilliant coach, a man that had a global company. He coached Fortune 100 companies, like all their employees, their C-suite, their CEO. He coached governments from around the world and sports teams. And so I paid a lot of money.
His name is?
Lou Tice. His name was Lou Tice. He's passed on now, but he owned a company still in business called the Pacific Institute in Seattle. And I became a certified Lou Tice facilitator, coach, went through his programs. And one of the distinctions that he gave me in that process was that motivation, the energy to get things done, the mood, the magic, it actually has nothing to do with desire. All desire does is point us in a direction. It's kind of like a GPS coordinate, dial in the coordinates. This is where I want to go, but it doesn't give you the fuel, the jet power to get there. That's a different distinction. Okay, what is that distinction? And that distinction is a story, which I call a vision, a story of inevitability. And the story is like a film script. It's like a movie. And so let's say, I want to go here. I want to accomplish this. But now I have a story of accomplishing it and of the journey. And it's all in the light of inevitability. Go a little deeper, like there's 3 levels of belief. There's possible. So I think it's possible that I might accomplish what I want to accomplish. That's a story. It's a flavor of the story. And when our story has the flavor of possible, we lean in, we put our toe in the water, we try. We don't fully engage. The second level is probable. So when our story has the flavor of what's probable, then we really lean in and we engage to some degree. But no matter what we're doing, we're going to meet resistance. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be opposition. There's going to be failure, right? And no accomplishment that's worth talking about comes without a great deal of resistance. And so if all you've got is a story of probable, very often the resistance is too much to overcome and people bail. But when you have a story of inevitable, the sense of inevitability is kind of no matter what, right? Like Nike's slogan is just do it. And that's a great slogan. But I don't think it goes all the way. What they perhaps ought to have made their slogan was just do it anyway. Because if you're just doing it, you're going to face all kinds of opposition. There's going to be all kinds of distractions, all kinds of excuses, right? And what that does is it leads people into a story of, oh, I was, and you have to get this all the time, Dr. Stillman, with patients, that you give a protocol and you give them guidance and they start off on it. And then you check up on them a week or 2 or a month later. And what you get is a story of, well, I was trying. And then,
you got to unpack everything you just said.
Somebody else got elected president of the United States. And so my whole world, like the world won't let me. I'm a victim. And you get this messy, stupid story. And, people just don't do what they set out to do. But when you have the just do it anyway, it doesn't matter that your cat got sick, and it doesn't matter that you got busy, and it doesn't matter who the president of the United States is. It doesn't matter what your circumstance or your excuse. You just do it anyway,
Mm-hmm.
and it becomes the highest priority or one of your highest priorities of action bias. And so I just learned all of this from Lou Tice, and Lou Tice's program was very expensive and very involved and wasn't practical for the common person. And I just found huge application in everyday life for no matter what people were wanting to do. And I would listen to their language, and people would say, well, I really want to do, I want to, whatever. I want to lose weight. I want to get healthy. I want to get rich. And then even if they didn't say it, you could hear the but, right? Like, oh, I really want to, you can hear it, right? It's
You
in
can
the
hear it.
unsaid, but it's right there. It's but.
It's right there.
Yeah. And so, okay, well, why haven't you? Right. And then you've asked that question, then you'll get the whole story about, the president and the cat and everything else. Right. And okay, well, what if you had a different story? So I just pursued mastery of hearing the story, the real vision, and helping people see, for example, what is the real vision. This is why you're stumbling. This is why you try and give up. This is why you get distracted, because your story is a story of try. Yoda, I don't know how many times I've done this exercise, but a whole, I have 1,000 people in the room, or have everybody put a pin on your hand, right? Okay, now try to pick it up. And what people will do is they'll pick it up, right? No. If I wanted you to pick it up, I would have just said, pick the pin up off your hand. What I said was, try to pick it up. And they're like, no. That's picking it up. Try to pick it up. So they grab a hold of it, and a lot of times they'll do like,
yeah.
Okay. Did you pick it up? No. So that would be not picking it up. There's either picking it up or there's not picking it up. Any amount of this till you're blue in the face and have a heart attack is still not picking it up. What did Yoda provide us? The distinction is there is no try. And yet that is almost everybody's story.
Mm-hmm.
That is supposed to motivate them to get done whatever they want to get done. And then they wonder why can't get it done. It's more than you wanted to know about the story of Mach II, but that's the genesis of it.
It's exactly what I wanted to know. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
everything you just said about success is directly applicable to health and wellness.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I've long told patients that the number 1 and 2 reasons for what I call therapeutic failure, and I consider myself very unusual in the medical world in that I actually discuss therapeutic failure. Why do people fail to get better? I am fascinated by this concept.
Yeah.
It motivates the majority of the changes that I make in my practice because, and I don't mean changes to protocols, changes to supplements, changes to whatever. We actually have a very, very increasingly sophisticated system for, it's not so much maximizing success as it is operating with our patients with total integrity. Because what we've seen in the health and wellness industry is that there's a tendency to dial up the pain and the cost of care to basically get people over that resistance and almost force them to engage and commit. to the point of sometimes just outright manipulating them in a way that I find deeply disingenuous. But if someone's going to come into my practice and they've got X problem, and I know it's going to take, Y, Z, M, N, O, P, whatever, letters of the alphabet for this duration and this amount, this many tests, this many supplements, this many rounds of whatever, I'm going to tell them. And then it's up to them to execute and engage. And we give them the option of higher levels of care with more accountability, more touch, more time, and lower. And we don't force them into any of these, but we will sometimes explain to them that for the goals they are set, they are trying to put what I call it this way. They're trying to fit size 12 feet into size 10 shoes. And I sleep easy at night knowing that I've told them that. And then when they don't get results, I know that I at least gave them, the honesty and of my opinion right from the get-go. And invariably, whenever we are faced with someone who says, "Oh, I'm not getting better, I'm not seeing results, the weight's not coming off, the headaches aren't going away, the anxiety is still there, blah, 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 blah," we've got a very, very, very clear list of things we go through with them. Because at the end of the day, I like the saying, success leaves clues. Being healthy is not some kind of magical, mystical. You don't have to go meditate on a mountain for the next 10 years. When you really talk to people and you listen to them, what did you do to get or maintain your health? There may be, well, I did this weird supplement protocol, or I did coffee enemas, or I, went to some whatever and smoked this thing. There's some weird stories out there, I guarantee it. But by and large, most of those people, those successes they're talking about are basically a flash in the pan. They're better for 3, 6 months, a year. True, lasting good health starts with foundational habits. And it's very simple. We go through a list. Are you doing these foundational things? And if you're not doing those foundational things, why are you not doing them? It's just what you were saying. I have the kids and I got the husband. I got all the other things that all the other people and all the other places in the world have. And some combination of those things got in the way of me taking 3 10-minute walks and getting natural sunlight and eating a healthy diet and drinking some water and blah, 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 blah. But what's also fascinating is when you get into the psychology behind, well, why did they get in the way? And that's what you were talking about with people have these stories. And, your book is, I think, what I love about it is it's so concise. I've read more books on mind, body medicine than I can remember. Some of them are incredibly just detailed, going into things like fMRI and PET scanning and functional neuroscience, and all that's great.
Right.
But if
You're a
people would
neuroscientist.
spend 10% of the time that they tend to spend focusing on the problems of neuroscience, focusing on the known solutions, which are pretty much right here, the world would have a lot fewer problems. And one of the things that most impressed me was how you distilled this down. What I see people living through in their life when it comes to their health is these I am statements. You talk about how, in a very simple terms, people, they get these beliefs about themselves and the world from their early childhood experiences. I don't know if you've ever looked into this, but there's a scale, adverse childhood experiences scale. The higher you score on that scale, the more likely you are to fail in life.
Mm-hmm. I haven't seen that, but yeah, it makes sense, of course.
Yeah. Do you want to talk to people about this whole I aming process and how it affects them at a subconscious level?
Well, we've all heard of the developmental years, right? Like, it's actually prenatal through about age 5, but it can be older, younger, just depends on the emotional development of the child. But if you can, we just don't think about this as adults. We're too close to the forest to see the trees here. But when a newborn human being with a mind and eyes and ears and feelings and comes into this world, what we fail to realize as stewards of the world is that this baby, this infant, this being does not have any points of reference to be able to understand what is what. Where am I? But what are all these things? Who are you? What are you?
Why are the adults acting the way that they are?
Well, that's a sophisticated question. I'm not sure they asked that yet, but it's pure disorientation. We just take for granted, okay, baby's born, we're in a hospital and there's a hospital bed and there's, machines. And of course we understand all of this, right? Okay, this is a bed. Of course it's a bed. And this is a chair and this is a room. We're in a hospital. Of course it is. And this is a whatever machine, right? We just understand all of that. But imagine a newborn looking at these things. It would be like you somehow getting captured by aliens and they take you to their world and nothing is the same in their world. Like they don't have a physical shape, right? We're used to looking at, okay, you're a being if you have a shape. Well, what if aliens don't have a shape? What if they just didn't bother with shapes, right? And we're used to like, okay, well, you must have got me here in a spaceship. It's supposed to look like a flying saucer or something, right? But what if they didn't? What if they don't have saucers where they come from? And so they take us to their place, whatever that place is, and we expect it to look like our place. Like it should have chairs and walls and doors and windows or something, right? And it has none of that. And we're like, where am I? But it gets deeper than that. It gets, who am I in relationship to this environment and how do I survive? And that's what newborns are trying to figure out. They're not trying to figure out who we are or what that is. They're trying to figure out who they are. They're trying to figure out their I am. I am what? I am who? And of course, because they're alive and a being, they have the innate sense of how do I be safe? How do I survive? And that's what's going on in these developmental years. Now, on the outside, what's going on is generally clueless parents that are just, I'm not being critical, it's just the paradigm, right?
Well-intentioned, but
Yeah.
clueless.
Gee, Amy. Oh, you're pregnant. Oh, awesome. Congratulations. 9 months later, Amy has a child. Well, Amy, how you had to go through the course and pass the test to drive a car. What did you have to go through and what test did you have to pass to be a parent and nurture this precious being during their development? Nothing. Right? All you had to do was watch soap operas and have casual sex, and you're qualified to be a parent. And so, and then
Even
of
the
course,
soap operas are optional.
yeah, parents are overwhelmed by we can't afford this. We're both trying to cover jobs. The kid won't let us sleep. They're crying all the time. How do we feed this? We got nursing, and I mean, we're like at our wits' end, right?
Yes.
We're not at our best, and we're a little stressed out, and our voice may raise, or our irritation level may raise, right? And there may be stress in the household. There may be anger in the household. There might be yelling. There might be banging. There might be physical violence. Whether it's us or the TV shows we're watching cluelessly while the infant is trying to figure out who they are. And this I aming is what happens in the developmental years. And what most kids decide is that they are not safe and they are not enough. And the not enough comes from they are wired to get unconditional nurturing from the parents. Those are the giants in the room that provide safety. Remember, we're this big, they're this big, right? And so just the natural orientation is these people can kill me. So I need
They
for them
control all access to food, air, water,
everything,
the
just
elimination
physical
of waste
size, strength,
products.
right? Everything. And so the orientation is what I need from the two giants in the room is constant reinforcement that I'm safe, that I'm loved. Not that they know that word, but they can intuit the feeling, and that I'm special and that I'm everything to them. And if we look at them sideways, or we argue with each other, or we raise our voice, or we do this to the kid, not hit them necessarily, but just,
But
stop
also
that.
things like, say, neglect. How
Yes,
common is it for a child to be crying out and to get a huge delay in care? And obviously, there's
totally.
things in life get in the way of taking care of kids. It's
So
part of the
what's
deal, but
common is kids decide who they are in these formative years, and most of them declare a low self-esteem identity. I'm not safe. I'm not enough. Now, I don't know why, but they split then on two paths. One path succumbs to that I am. I am not enough. I am not safe. They succumb, they play small, they hide, they make poor decisions, they lead a less than ideal life. The other, they rebel against that unnatural declaration that I'm not loved and I'm not enough. They rebel against it by living a life of proving that they are. And these are the kids that get the best grades, that perform the best in athletics, that win all the contests, that do what society wants them to do. They are the most successful in business because they're driven to prove that they're enough. The challenge is both kids come from a nexus, a truth that they're not enough. This one believes they're not enough, and so they're out to prove that they are. You can't be out to prove that you're enough unless it starts with you have the thought that you're not enough. So, what I look to do in Mach II is teach people to basically identify what did you decide in your formative years? And that's not necessarily an easy process, but it's simple and you can get there. And then which course did you take? Did you take the I'm going to lay low and try to, you know, just basically play out the story that I'm not enough, or I'm going to rebel? Which path did you take and what did that lead to in your life? And then what do you want your life to look like? Who do you want to be? How do you want to feel? You want to be driven by having to beat everyone in every contest and always be the most special and always be the best dressed and always make the most money and always be the most popular. And like social media probably just blew that up for people, right? Where, all those people now, they have to dance on their head naked 24/7 to be the most special people on social media. It just wears you out, right? And it also does not allow you to be the best you can be and accomplish what you need to accomplish, because it also wears out everyone around you. That who you are is I always have to win. I always have to be the smartest. I have to be the best. I have to have the last word. I have to dress the best, right? Wears everybody out around you. So there's a once you understand all of that, there's the possibility that, okay, when you were 2, your dad did not let you crawl up on his lap when he got home from work because he was worn out. And he just brushed you off and said, no, not now. And you decided, that's it. He doesn't love me. I'm not enough. And now you're 50. And what I look to do in the book and the subsequent courses is, okay, your dad had a bad day and he brushed you off. That's what happened. But what you want to realize is you made up the part about you're not enough. That's a story. Now you're 50. How do you like how that story is played out? You want a better life? You want a more peaceful life, a more loving life, an easier life, a more productive life, a life where you can manifest 10x? Let's make up something different.